hello once again to another video about my painting progress. I'm Dakian. It is now Monday the 19th of June 2017 and I've finished a grand total of 10 minis this past week, all of them from the same box set, namely these Nyarlathotep worshipping creatures thingies. In the front we have the two NCOs. The ones that are slightly different, that have the black coats and submachine guns and some more gear. They're carrying also, they each have like a book and a couple of scroll cases on their belts. They look a bit more lizard-like. Now for the normal servitors, I've gone with the more sort of pinkish color. I also went with pale green uniforms, sort of like on the cover image. I have some blood effects up there in the mouths, and yeah, especially a lot of blood effects here on this one that's bursting out of a body. Now, the thing that was kind of difficult about these minis, let's see if I can show you this. That's the same sculpt again, isn't it? Is their snouts, or well, tongues, I assume they are. They're a bit fragile. The tips are a bit fragile. Like I've mentioned before, this one was broken off already in the box, and I managed to break off another one while handling it after painting, and so I had to sort of repaint it. I filed it down so it looks a bit more. It's not a sharp break. It's more blunt snout now, but it looks a little bit different from the others. And but yeah, I mean, when it's mixed in among all the others, it doesn't stand out that much. I think it looks okay. It doesn't bother me. But this was a fun batch of minis, and they look so suitably gross and disturbing, and will require a bit of sanity loss. So let's go on to works in progress. Well, it's time for another time warp. I'm going to show you a bit of a sequence from prepping of these Black Sun Troopers, and a question of hard choices. Now, to begin with, this image is not mirror image. This is the right way around. And I'd like to compare, see, this here is the Flamethrower Trooper, the Flammenwerfer Trooper. I have two of those, and here is the model of that. And you'll see it's the same, except I've added something. Because the left hand is held in a sort of this position. It's held out with a closed fist, but it's turned this way up. It's not like threatening somebody with a clenched fist. It's holding the fist like this, like he's holding something in the hand. And it just didn't seem to make any sense to me. So I took some 0.5mm wire, bent it, and very carefully glued it in place. See, because seems like there's a thing in the handle here where something might attach, like a hose, because the fuel has to get from the tank on his back to there somehow. Only after I did all this work did I think about it and look even closer at it and consider a few things. Okay, number one, it shouldn't attach to the bottom of the tank. It should attach to the valve here, and that would also be closer. That would be more logical for it to go around the right side. And in fact, you can actually see a little bit of a cable here. It's actually sculpted in. It seems to be going into his sleeve. And by the way, the tank has to be this way. The orientation of the tank has to be this way because of the emblem on it. It's only the right way up if it's turned this way, so I can't turn it any other way. So, in fact, either I could say there's a hidden cable going through his sleeve, or I should rip this off and put it back on this side instead. But that leaves the question of what the heck is his left hand doing? I don't know. Well, when you see the finished video, I will have made a decision one way or another. But see, this is the kind of decision you're faced with illogical sculpting. I mean, most of these other guys, this guy has a free hand, but he's just holding his gun at a sort of resting position, so that doesn't just sort of make sense. This sculpt is holding the gun with both hands. The machine gunner is holding it with both hands. The radio operator is holding his gun in one hand. That's because he's holding his other hand to his earpiece and trying to listen for something, I suppose. This sculpt is kind of stupid as well. He looks like he's kind of surprised and turning to one side, or like he's just dropped the rifle with one hand. I'm not sure, but again, this is let's see, it's some of these guys here in the picture. It's exactly how he looks there. So I have glued the arms on correctly. But anyway, we'll see what I do. So this is where these guys are at now. They've been primed a gray color actually, and I've base coated or kind of undercoated them all in a dark turquoise, coal black from P3. It's pretty much identical with Incubi Darkness from GW, in case you're wondering. And this is going to serve as sort of base coat / undercoat, because as you've seen, they're all basically black. They've highlighted these in more of a cold gray, a blue, kind of a gray blue. And I'm going with a green blue here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep doing that. Maybe I'll reconsider. I don't know. We'll see which way I go in the end. But since they're all going to be pretty dark, this is going to be my base. Now with these guys, the Flammenwerfer, I kept these on for the time being. The cables that I sculpted in, or well, sort of glued in. My reasoning being that it's easier to take something off than to add it. I can always, they're very, they're just glued on to thin connection points. I can always break them off and touch up the paint job later if I should feel that it's necessary. For now, you know, I'm just going to leave it there and count on people not looking too closely and not thinking too hard about it. That's usually a good bet. Anyway, I think these are going to be pretty simple. I expect these to be done before next Monday comes around, actually. So I need something more. And here we have something more. I've taken out these deep ones. I've cleaned them off and glued them to bases. So I've started these 11 minis. Next step is to add some grit to the bases, glue that down properly, and then prime them, and then paint. And basically they're just faces and hands, and then robes, and you know, and weapons, but very simplistic. So they'll be pretty fast to paint too, I think. And of course, after these come the final 9 Achtung Cthulhu minis, which I've already shown you multiple times before. So nothing new in the queue there just yet. So this week I'd like to show you the contents of two packages that have arrived, because they're both relatively small. There's only 6 minis in each. The first one was from WAMP. I bought, they had a sale and I decided to buy some stuff. And I got some materials, but also a few minis, mostly from the Bombshell Babes range, because I can't buy these from the US because well, for reasons. So I have to find European suppliers of them, and I really like this range. So what I did was simply I picked up everything from this range that the WAMP store had and that I didn't already own. So most of it is fantasy, like this one, The Girl and Princess Lina, and what's it say here? The Sword Maiden. You can't tell, her back is turned. These are fantasy minis. And there's Bug Spray, which is sci-fi. And Raven Sky, who is some sort of steampunk figure. Also, I decided to, take a long shot and try out a different range, one that I hadn't tried before. So I bought a mini from Another World, which is also kind of a steampunk witch hunter. I don't know. It doesn't impress me terribly in person, but well, I'll paint it up and see what it's like. But these two, the Raven Sky and this Another World mini, will go into my current queue because they're sort of in the period. Not really, but kind of. The others will get put into my backlog. The other package is from Reaper, and I got one more of their 25th anniversary minis. This was Eli Quick Knight, a thief. But this was a bonus. I got this for free as part of the package. What I really bought were some monsters. Now they're all upside down. Now these are all from the Warlords range, but I thought they looked semi-Cthulhuoid, like the spawn of Mashaf. Looks interesting, and especially this one, the Devourer of Mashaf. This is clearly a tentacle monster of some sort. And the Shadow Demon looks more like a sort of standard humanoid demon, but oh well, I thought it was kind of in the vein. But the really big thing that pushed me over the limit to get the anniversary mini was Cthulhu himself in Glorious Reaper Bones, because this one would be really too heavy and unwieldy as a metal mini. And let's see if we can unbox it a little bit just to show you the contents of this box. So we have a head, we have the main body, which is a pretty solid piece of plastic, even for bones. It's relatively hard. It's not as flexible because it's a big chunk piece. And what's in here? Presumably the wings and something. Okay, we have the tail. Again, feels solid. The wings are, these are much more flexible, but they're very thin. I was afraid that they would, if these had been too thick and chunky, then the weight of them would have made them droop. They wouldn't have stayed up. I was curious about that because in a video by Dr. Faustus, he talked about, when he painted this mini, he talked about reinforcing them with brass rod, the wings with brass rod. I don't really see why that would be necessary, honestly, because I mean, I think they would stay. They'll stay up as they are. Huh. Anyway, 2 arms and a sort of scenic base. There's a piece of stone here. He'll be standing like this. And it's like a piece of building on Rely or something or somewhere. Oh. Overall, a very nice kit, for very well planned, and I think it's going to work. Even though I hate this material, for a model like this, if it's intelligently constructed and cut up into pieces, it can work very well. So I'll get started on this sometime during the summer, I believe, because I do want to paint this guy relatively soon. So look out for that. But I'm all done for this week. Until next week, here's hoping you had fun watching this. Click like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Dakian, and I'm signing.